I'm Carol, and this is Joy, and we are with bNutty Peanut Butter. Our business started for us and our journey 8 years ago. And so Dr. Harry shared all those amazing lessons involving financing and math. Well, we're not quite at that point yet. So we're a little bit more to the basics, so I hope that you bear with us and find some fun and humor in our nutty journey. So we're two soccer moms, and 8 years ago, our kids were constantly traveling for youth soccer. How many people here have children or have participated in youth sports? So we all know that those things are very expensive. You're constantly on the road, paying for hotel rooms, paying for gear, paying for plane tickets, paying for food. And so a lot of families were saying, this is a really expensive thing to do. And so we started fundraising. And at the time, I was the chair of the fundraising committee, and Joy was absolutely tired of selling candy bars and wrapping paper. And so she said to me, we're going to come up with a healthy solution. And she came up with peanut butter. Quite frankly, I thought it was a nutty idea. Pun completely intended. Peanut butter is heavy. Kids are going to go door to door with a wagon full of peanut butter. Well, it turns out she was right, because she handed me a jar of pretzel white chocolate peanut butter. They handed me a jar of toffee milk chocolate peanut butter, and I absolutely fell in love. I'd never had flavored peanut butter before. So 8 years ago, Joy was making peanut butter in her kitchen, and I was teaching kids how to sell peanut butter. We basically built our entire business on child labor. Please don't tell anyone. And so we found out that what she said would be once a year, like the Girl Scouts, turned into once a month, and then once a week. And then we found ourselves in the kitchen all the time making peanut butter. People would run out of blueberry peanut butter and call us. Please, 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 do you just have one jar? Can you meet me anywhere? I can't wait for the next fundraiser. And so eventually, after a few late nights of driving to gas stations and grocery store parking lots and handing out peanut butter to perfect strangers and collecting cash, we're like, we are going to end up on the front page of the newspaper, and not for the right reasons. And so we decided that it was probably time to find a different avenue. Someone suggested farmers markets. So we started taking our soccer players to farmers markets. We'd set up a tent. They would sell out of peanut butter. And while we were doing that, we realized something really important. We realized that we were helping these children to get an opportunity to get a scholarship into college. I mean, that's why you chase competitive sports. But what we weren't doing is we weren't teaching them actually how to get into college or how to do a successful interview so the coach makes you an offer. These kids spent all their time either in the classroom or on the soccer field. They didn't know how to shake hands. They didn't know how to make small talk. They didn't know how to have a conversation with a perfect stranger that didn't involve Snapchat or, at that time, Instagram. And so we realized that there was another thing that we were doing. We were educating youth. We were teaching them how to have job skills, giving them a flexible opportunity to learn the value of $1 and to raise money. And so we got excited about what we were doing, and we said, this is a lot of fun. So we started taking our soccer players to more soccer tournaments, exposing them to more college coaches, paying for visits for them to tour college campus, providing tutoring when they didn't have it, helping to pay for SAT prep, ACT prep, scholarships if they needed to buy books. We got excited about all of the things that had nothing to do with peanut butter. And at the time, we were still learning how to build a business. Now, Joy's background is she was a nurse midwife. I worked in banking, worked for Visa, MasterCard, Bank of America. We had absolutely no food experience, but we decided we were going to start a food company. So there's mistake number one now. Just kidding. We were having a lot of fun, but we realized we needed to learn a little bit more. So, and these are just some photos of us kind of along the way with our soccer teams that we sponsor and a lot of the fun we've had. So we decided that we needed to get an office. First we decided we needed to learn a little bit more about the food industry. So we traveled to New York City, and Joy signed us up for something called the Specialty Foods Association. They had a show in New York City. She said, we're going to go there, Carol. We're going to take these classes. We're going to find out more about the food industry. It's going to be a lot of fun. And this is kind of the theme on how Joy has talked me into everything along the way. We're going to have fun. So I follow her. She's the instigator. and we start getting ready for New York, and we start getting these emails. And they're not about what classes to take and what materials to bring. They're about loading pallets in, setting up your table. Do you need electricity? I'm like, Joy, what do we need all this stuff for? She's like, oh, I don't know. Read the email. I'm like, Joy, what did you do? Well, she's like, well, I signed us up for a booth so we can see if people like the product. I'm like, you're going to put a booth in New York City to see if people, she's like, yeah, it's small. It's just gourmet foods. So I thought we were going to meet like Joe's Wine Shop, Sally's Chocolate Shop. Yeah, that is not what happened. We went there and we're exhibiting with people like Godiva Chocolate, you know. I mean, you name the big major brand, they are there. And here's little bNutty that we're still making in a kitchen that we rented by the hour, a commercial kitchen in Valparaiso we rented by the hour. We're setting up our little table in the middle of the Javits Center in New York City with our farmers markets tablecloths and our wooden crates, and we're having a great time, but we're clueless. We had no idea what we were doing. People are stopping by and they're asking, how do you distribute? I didn't realize in specialty food, there's a thing called a distributor. They move your product for you. I'm like, well, we can send it UPS, FedEx, or USPS, anyone. We do all three. They're like, yeah, that's not what we meant. And so, but we walked out of New York City, and we'll get to the lessons in a minute, but we'll give you a little bit of our background. We walked out of New York City and we had started communicating with companies that still sell our product, like Harry and David and QVC. So we took the product on QVC, we said yes, we had an amazing time, and that's really what launched our brand. So over the last 8 years, we grew from a home kitchen to a shared commercial kitchen space to an 1,800 square foot kitchen that we thought was huge. We thought we'd both have our own office, we'd put a couch and a foosball table in for the kids. 6 months later, we're like, oh my gosh, we're out of space. We expanded from there, and the current nut house, which is not as pictured in this photo, is in Portage, Indiana, 17,000 square feet with an additional 10,000 square feet of storage we took on last year and another 10,000 this year. And so we continue to grow. This is what it actually looks like, excusing the illustration. Now we get our peanuts in 2,000-pound super sacks. We used to buy them at Meijer in the little canisters and use our Cuisinart food processor and pour things into jars with ice cream scoopers and cut the labels out by hand. And it was a very handmade business. But we've learned a lot of lessons along the way, mostly stuff we wish we knew last month. And so we're here to share just a few of those things with you. Am I doing okay on time? Okay, good. So the first thing is opportunities happen when you step outside your comfort zone. Joy's comfort zone, her comfort zone was being a nurse. She's an amazing nurse. When a medical emergency happens, she is the first person to remain calm. I, on the other hand, if I see blood, I am on the ground or crying, or I've already probably ran to the parking lot. But neither one of us had a background in food, but we realized we loved it. We loved the challenge. We loved traveling together. We loved learning new things together. And so opportunities happen when you do something different. If you keep on doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep on getting what you've been getting. And the question always is it enough? We knew it wasn't. So we realized we had to step outside our comfort zone. And that was really hard for us because when we first got started, every time a new opportunity came up, we were scared. I remember telling Joy, like, Joy, this can't be the real QVC. I'm not calling this person back. Almost like you're so scared of success that you don't want to take that first step. Because what if you fail? But what if you don't? So we went on QVC. We found out a lot of things the first few times we went on. We found out no one wants to spend $60 for a basket of peanut butter. But it turns out that you can adjust and change. You can dial in. You can say, okay, great, QVC, well, $60 didn't work. Let's go back on with 50. You know, having that ability and that desire to try something different, that's where our greatest successes have come from. We were trudging along at the old nut house, as we call it, the original nut house. And we were like, gosh, we really want to grow faster. We were building, there's some soccer fields out in Portage, Indiana on Samuelson Road. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's an 8 soccer field complex. Joy and I were fundraising to help put that field together. We really wanted to give the opportunity to our soccer players to have college scouts come here. We're like, we've got to grow faster. We're going to keep up with the growth and the development of what these kids need. We need to figure out how to sell more jars of peanut butter. Because everything in our world is measured on how many jars of peanut butter do I have to sell to do this. And so we decided that we were going to embark upon something called the Year of Yes. Our opportunities came because we read a book. My friend Trish said that you really need to read this book. It's by a woman named Shonda Rhimes. She's the creator. She wrote that book, Scandal, or the TV show Scandal and Grey's Anatomy. She wrote this book called The Year of Yes. And it's all about when you're scared to try something, what happens if you just start saying yes to new opportunities that come your way? What if you say yes when someone asks you out to lunch, but you're too tired to go? What if you say yes to a new job opportunity? What if you say yes to taking a look at a business? And so we decided that we were going to do our own Year of Yes. And no matter what anyone asked us, that was safe. We were going to say, although Joy did try to get me to jump off the side of a building in Vegas, we were tethered in, but we decided we would just say yes. And it was amazing what happened. The more yeses we gave, the more yeses we got, the more opportunities came our way. So when we were able to stop being scared and start opening up, things really started to grow at the Nut House. And the other lesson that we learned is you don't have to know all the answers. You just have to know where to find them. When we started in the food industry, we were completely clueless. I told you what I said to the distributor. Well, the next person asked me who my broker was. And guess what? I wanted to give them my stockbroker's number. I'm in the middle of a food show at the Javits Center, and I'm like, that's an odd question, but I'm happy to share his number. And so I'm looking it up, and it dawns on them. And they're like, no, not like a stockbroker, you're food broker. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. So when we say we were clueless, we mean we were really clueless. We didn't know how to case pack. We didn't know how to pack a pallet. We didn't know how to order ingredients that we didn't buy from the grocery store. We thought we graduated when we started buying them at Costco. It took us a while. But what we figured out really quick is by pretending to know everything, no one was going to teach us anything. People want to help people that need help. And the only way they're going to know that you need help is if you raise your hand and say, I need help. Is there anyone here in this room that has ever had a question asked of them that they didn't know the answer to? And guess what you do? You find it. We've all been there. And so by not being the expert, by not putting that pressure on yourself to be the expert, all of a sudden you learn that it's okay. It's okay to not know the answer. It's okay not to fail. I remember the first time we packed a pallet. When we tell people we were clueless, this is a true story. The first time we had to pack a whole pallet of peanut butter, we thought that was a massive amount. Oh my gosh, we're going to ship out 2,000 jars of peanut butter, Joy. We've only ever made like 150 in a day. So we bought some little pieces of equipment. We were making peanut butter day and night. We finally get it ready to go to ship to QVC, and we had a room in the middle of our office. So I'm like, all right, we have to put 6 different kinds of flavors of peanut butter in a box. We've got to do that like 600 times. So we're going to pull all the peanut butter in. We put it all on a table. So there's a table here, all in a big circle around the room. Now this made sense to us. We're not manufacturing experts. I dragged the pallet in, I put it right in the middle. I'm like, all right, Joy, we're going to walk around like an assembly line. So us and a few of our family members, we just kept walking in circles and filling the boxes and walking in circles, and we pack them all on the pallet. We're watching YouTube videos, how do you pack a pallet? We get it all packed up. We get the pallet wrap that we bought at Menards, and we're wrapping it. That's a lot of work. We get all the way done, and we're like, all right, let's get it out to the dock. The guy's going to be here in a few minutes. Well, we realized that I brought the pallet into the conference room, which has a door that's about this wide. So when you say we didn't know what we were doing, we really did not know what we were doing. We packed that pallet all night, and we looked, and all we wanted to do was just sit down and cry. Like, we are old, we are tired, there's a lot of peanut butter to move. But we put our boots back on, and we moved the pallet and realized we would never do that again. But our mistake led us to start thinking about the fact that we know nothing about warehousing, nothing about shipping. Your mistakes help you identify your weaknesses. And when we realized, like Dr. Harry's presentation, I wish I were that good at math. I wish I understood financing, but we don't. In the beginning, we tried to do our bookkeeping ourselves, and let me tell you, it was a nightmare. Day in and day out, we just fought with each other. It's your turn. No, it's your turn. Neither one of us can run a spreadsheet to save our lives, but we realized that it's important not to know all the answers, but to find someone who does. The best day of our lives was when we hired a bookkeeping firm and said, yes, we have an accountant, because they know all the answers that we don't. This is one of my favorite quotes. A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. And it's so true. All of us, from the time you learn to walk till the time you learn how to ride a bike, no one learns how to ride a bike without falling. We fall every day. And again, usually they're things we wish we knew a year ago. From that first pallet that we got wrong, we're now shipping containers full of peanut butter across the country. But it doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. And it doesn't mean that we don't need help. It just means that when we make mistakes, we laugh at ourselves. Usually everyone else in the Nut House laughs at us too. We all work together to find a way to solve it. And I think that's the most valuable thing I can tell you is that not having that fear and letting go of that fear, it changes everything. It's okay to be a small business. The journey of 1,000 miles, it starts with a single step. We love being a small business. When we first started negotiating contracts, we wanted to pretend like we were big. So we would walk into the table and we would sit down with our suits and our briefcases, and they would ask us questions and we would nod our heads like we knew what was going on. And we would pretend like we were this big company that could fulfill these big orders. And they always say, be careful what you wish for, because the first big retailer that we launched into was Walmart. Biggest mistake we've ever made. Not because they were hard to work with. They were actually very kind to us, and they worked with us a lot, but because we had no customer base. And when you go into Walmart, everything's about price. We tried to sell a $10 jar of peanut butter to a Walmart consumer base that knew nothing about us and who we were. And our sales didn't go well. Now, luckily, again, turns out Walmart's a big corporation, but at the end of the day, they're people too. We were able to work with those people and say, okay, this is not working. You know, we're not selling well. We think we need to come back to you in a few years when we've built up a customer base. We need to go back to the beginning and start over. Online sales, e-commerce, local grocery stores like Strachan Van Til. We sell 10 times more product there in one of their stores than we ever did in a national store, because we realized that we'd made a big mistake. We thought we needed to get a big company to get successful, but we didn't. We needed a lot of small companies placing big orders. And that was a learning lesson for us. Now, we got lucky again. They were very kind. We used the money that we made from that first year in Walmart to invest into the new nut house. But it doesn't mean it wasn't a mistake, because now it threw our data, threw our analytics off. So when people were evaluating our company, they're like, your sales are slow. Why are you losing stores? We're like, we're not losing stores, we're pulling out of them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that set us back a little bit. And we had to work really hard for a couple years to recover, because we thought that big business meant big success. And it meant the exact opposite. Big business meant big headache for a small company. So don't be scared to be small. Don't be scared to make your journey a stair step. You don't have to jump to the top of the mountain. We're all going to get there at the same time, whether you go fast or whether you go slow. But trying to go fast is expensive. It is expensive. And unless anyone here won that lotto that's out there right now, it is not something that you want to do, I can promise you. So don't be scared to be a small business. And I would say that's probably the biggest lesson that we always tell people. When other food companies come to us and say, hey, what can you tell us? I'm like, you know what I can tell you? Take it one step at a time. Let your growth be organic. Figure out what your customers want and figure out where you fit. Figure out your niche. And those are the things that we've really learned. They're not big lessons. They're not anything probably anyone here hasn't ever heard before, but they're our journey. And so for us, we continue with our soccer players and funding youth athletic programs. Our next goal is to start a foundation to provide scholarships to all youth athletes. And so that's where we're going with the next jump in bNutty. And so I guess that's our story in a nutshell. Pun fully intended, fully intended. So, thank you.